Hello everyone, welcome to Mod House Gaming, and I'm your host, Andrew, and we're here doing another introduction video to Blood Bowl. We're going to cover movement, picking up the ball, and dodges. So, movement in Blood Bowl is very simple. You check your stat line again for the MA stat. That is your movement allowance. That's how many squares your players can move. So basically, each little dot plus sign here is a segment of like a square. So, for example, this ball is in this square because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 around it. Yeah, makes sense. This guy is in this square because he is in that zone. Same with this guy. If you want to move into a square, you can move in any direction, and that includes diagonals. So, for example, he can move up 1, he can move back 1. He can go side to side. He can go that way. He can go that way. You know, all that costs 1 movement. So, for example, if I really wanted to just run around and get behind these black orc here, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because alignment has 6. Now, let's say I wanted to get to the touchdown, and I only have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I only have 6 movement, right? So I can go, okay, I can go from here, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I didn't make it there. I still have 2 squares to go. So how can I do that? Well, there's something called rush. And some people remember this as going for it, as in the Blood Bowl 2 game. Basically, a rush is an extra movement space, but it's a little risky because you're really trying to get to that like next square. So to rush, any player can do this. To rush, you need to make a 2 up on a d6. So for example, I made a 2, so you can move up without 1 next step. Now let's say I want to score a touchdown. Let's say he had the ball. I want to score that touchdown right this second. We're going to go ahead and try again to rush. 3, he made it. Touchdown. But let's say he rolled a 1. Even if you're rushed into the end zone, you have to be standing at the end of your movement. Alright? So because he rolled a 1, he would fall over. You would make an armor roll, which we'll cover again in the blocking video, and the ball would bounce into another square, following the same bounce and scatter rules as we used in the kickoff video. You find your template, D8 amount of squares, a D8 direction, so we go in direction 1, and we go right behind it. Basically it for how rushing works. Rushing can be used to go in any direction, in any place. Can be used as long as it's after your max movement. You can't just rush because you're rushing. You have to go past your maximum movement, okay? So anytime you're trying to go 2 extra spaces, you can. That is the max of rush. There are certain abilities that let you go past that limit, like sprint. It gets you go up to 3 squares. And there are some abilities like sure feet, which lets you re-roll one of those. Go for it, the rushes. Okay? So that is rushing, and that is movement. Pretty simple. Again, Orc can do the same thing. Move 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's his movement. You can go again, rushing for a 2 up. There you go, you got it on a 3. He's fine, same thing. Now, let's say you're going to move into a square to pick up the ball. Let's say the human wants to do it. He has his full movement. He goes 1. Now he has to attempt to pick up the ball. This is where we check our agility test. We try to see if he can even grab it. And there's a couple factors that can happen. So we check his agility skill. And for a lineman, if you did check your roster, it is a 3 up. So you got to get 3 or higher on a d6. So you just roll a d6. That's a 6 on the starter dice. I rolled a 6, so he picks it up. Now, let's say he fails to pick it. Let's say I rolled a 1, right? He would drop the ball. He wouldn't fall over, but the ball would scatter, just like in a direction, 1 square, and it would cause a turnover. So what a turnover is is basically you lose your turn. It is now the opponent's player's turn. Now it's the orc's turn to grab the ball. And this is perfect because we're going to use this for an example. So, now that the human has dropped the ball, it is a turnover. It is now the black orc's turn. So, this orc is going to try to go pick up the ball. So he has a movement of 4, so he's fine to pick it up. He's going to go 1, 2, right? And he's going to attempt to pick up the ball. Now, a black orc's agility test is a 4 up. So, to do this, he needs to get a 4 or higher. However, he is next to someone that is not his team. So that means he gets a -1 to his roll, which makes it harder. So let's say I rolled a 5, it becomes a 4. If I rolled a 4, it becomes a 3. Essentially, it makes it harder. His 4 up becomes a 5 up because it's harder to get to that number that you need. So he needs a 4 up, but it's a -1 to the roll. So let's go ahead and roll it. I rolled a 1. He's definitely not picking it. But let's say I got a 4. Because it's a -1, it goes down to 3. Okay? He fails it. That's terrible. And he would do the same thing. It would bounce off of him, and it would be a turnover, and it would be the human team. But let's say he did fail it. And it went in direction 2. Right? Now, it's going to go bounce right next to the human. This can happen, and if that's the case, the human gets a free chance to grab it. The turnover would still happen, but the human would have it. But even if the human drops it, it's not a turnover for the human because it's technically still the black orc's turn until the ball is resolved. Okay? So it's not like, oh, turnover. That's not how that works. Okay? Cool. Just want to make sure. Some people were confused on that. I just want to make sure everyone knows that if it bounces into your square, you get a free chance to catch it before your turn even starts. Okay? Now, let's say we're gonna cover tackle zones now. So, tackle zones. We'll do it so you can see it. Tackle zones are any square that is around your player. All right. There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares around your player, right? And those 8 squares are considered your tackle zone. Imagine like there's a box around you, okay? That is it. When someone moves into your tackle zone, you are considered marked or tagged. For example, let's use a goblin so you can see it better. He is now tagged. Both players are now tagging each other because they are in a square that is adjacent to each other, including diagonals, okay? That's tagging him, that's tagging him, that's tagging him, that's tagging him. Now, when you're moving into a tackle zone, it is not a dodge, okay? It is not a dodge if you move into someone's tackle zone. So the goblin's here, he moves into here, that's fine. Now, when you move out or out of this current tackle zone, right? So he's next to him, he's in a tackle zone, he wants to move out. That is considered a dodge, okay? So let's say the goblin wants to dodge out, right? He wants to get out of here. Boom. He's going to go ahead and roll an agility test, just like we did with picking up the ball. He has an agility of 3. Let's say he got a 3. He successfully makes it. But let's say he got a 2 and he fell over. Same thing. If he falls over, if one of your players becomes prone or loses the ball, it is a turnover. And you would roll armor and see if he got hurt and all that stuff. Now, people have asked me, what happens if I move from this guy's tackle zone and I want to go into another lineman's tackle zone, right? Let's say there's a guy here. So you can see this guy's tackle zone covers these squares, and this guy's tackle zone covers these squares. Right? Let's say he wants to move into this square. Well, it's a dodge from this guy. Not a dodge from this guy. A dodge from this guy. Okay? Just want to make sure that's clear. Now, because you're moving from one tackle zone to another of the opposing player's team, it makes it harder to dodge into. So now it's a -1. So you would go ahead, subtract 1 from the roll. 3, it becomes a 2. he fails it, right? That's how dodging works there. Now, another way you can get someone, make it harder to dodge, is just placing one in their tackle zone next to them as well, making it even harder to dodge out. Again, -1 becomes a 2. Wow, I keep rolling 3s on that. So there you know how to dodge. That's how the rules state it. That's how it is. Now let's say he just wants to move into the same tackle zone as this guy, but not in the tackle zone of this guy. He goes like that. That is legal, and it's just a regular dodge, right? No modifiers. I rolled a 2, and that was terrible. Yeah. So there you go. That's how dodges work there. Now, I want to reiterate the dodge skill. There's a lot of players out there in the league, on many teams, that have the dodge skill, which lets you re-roll one of your dodge rolls. So for example, let's say this goblin is here, right? He is now stuck, and maybe there's like another lineman here, right? As you can see, there's a bunch of tackle zones. Here, let's move this up closer and move the scenario a little bit. As you can see, there's a bunch of tackle zones covering him, right? He only has 6 movement, and he wants to score a touchdown this turn. Let's say he pick up the ball, and he's got it. He's somehow got to get out of this jam, right? Let's say they're there. You notice that there's tackle zones here, and you notice that there's tackle zones here, and also here. The quickest way for this goblin to get out is probably this way, that way, yeah? Because you want to avoid this guy's tackle zone, but you can't really avoid her tackle zone. He would probably move here. Remember, he's going into another opposing player's tackle zone, so it is a -1. So you roll a 3. It becomes a 2. Now, he failed this. I'm going to use the free dodge roll. I got a 3. It still becomes a 2. I can't re-roll a dice that's been re-rolled again, even if it's the free dodge roll. Okay? He would fall over. But let's say I succeeded. I got a 4 and it turned into a 3. He's fine, right? Good to go. Let's go again. I've already used my free dodge roll, so we're going to dodge. And we failed. Now you could use one of your team re-rolls and re-roll it that way, because it's a new dodge roll. Makes sense? No? I'll go over it again. We dodged here, and we failed. But then we used our free re-roll with the skill dodge. Then we succeeded. Now we're going to try again. But then we failed again. Oh no. Well, I can't use my free dodge skill because I already used it once this activation. Now I can use a team re-roll and try to get it. We succeeded, and we're good. Now we score a touchdown. Woohoo! Yay! That's basically how dodges work. Just want to make sure. I know it seemed really stupid how I said that, but I just hope that clears things up there. So even just positioning players to where like their tackle zones line up and he can't really escape can make it difficult for someone to dodge out. Of course, there is a skill called Stunty. Now, the goblin does have this skill, so I just wanted to reiterate how this would work. So the goblin has a skill called Stunty. Stunty ignores modifiers to the dodge roll. So he would ignore that -1, and he would have succeeded and kept going, and he just wouldn't care about the -1s. If you have Stunty, you ignore the -1 penalty for dodging. Okay? Just want to make sure that's clear as well. Okay, guys, I have another scenario for you guys. What happens when a player is knocked down and he wants to move? So, let's say this goblin with the movement 6 is knocked down last turn, and humans tried to pick up the ball and it became a turnover. Now it's the Black Orc's turn. They get to try to do stuff. So let's say the Black Orc player wants to activate that goblin. Well, he is knocked down, but not stunned. He is knocked down, and he wants to stand up. To stand up, you half your movement allowance. For example, the goblin is movement allowance 6, so he would go down to 3. So he would stand up and start moving if he wanted. He can move up to now 3 squares because, again, that is half his movement allowance. Just want to make sure that's all clear as well. Players can also jump over prone players. So, for example, if, let's say the ball was just away, like over this goblin, and there was a bunch of other goblins just knocked out around him for some reason, and he just couldn't really maneuver over to the ball, it would just be a lot easier if he just could jump over some stuff. Somehow this happened, right? Let's just say he is surrounded by a bunch of prone players. He wants to jump out of there. Well, to do that, you have to do a couple things. You do an agility test made after jumping player has been moved, rushing first if necessary. Apply a negative modifier equal to the number of players that were marking the jumping player in the square they jumped from, or equal to the number of players that are marking the jumping player in the square they have jumped into, which is greatest. For example, if a player jumps from a square in which they are being marked by 1 player into a square in which they are being marked by 2 players, a modifier of -2 is applied. So let's say there's 2 orcs waiting for him outside. Right, they're like, oh yeah, come on, jump and try to get that ball. He would get a -2 to his agility test to jump over. Okay? But it isn't just he's jumping over it, he's going 1, 2 in his movement allowance. Let's make sure that's clear. You still have to count the square you're jumping over. Okay? That's it for that. Also, if he was jumping out of a square and there was someone next to him that's standing, let's say these orcs or the goblin was standing, you apply a negative modifier equal to that. However, if there was more people standing on the outside waiting for him to go into the square that would mark him, then you would use -3 because it's the greater one. You wouldn't do -5. You would do whatever is greater. So, for example, if there was no guys here, and there was 3, and there was only like 1 guy out here, I guess, and he's jumping into this open square, boom, you do the -3, not the -1. Okay? Pretty simple how to jump over stuff. Easy peasy. Cool. We covered how to pick up the ball. We covered how to dodge. But we also just covered tackle zones, and that's a little complicated. Remember, tackle zones are any square around a player, including the goblin. The goblin also has a tackle zone, okay? So if this lineman wanted to dodge out, it would be a dodge roll because he's in the goblin's tackle zone. So I hope that covers up a little bit how to pick up the ball, dodge, and get out of his way. Thanks for watching how to move in Blood Bowl and how to rush, how to dodge, and how to pick up the ball. These are very key elements of the game that everyone needs to learn and make sure they know the rules for it. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.